Monday Night Raw starts off with CM Punk. He comes out. He ends up mentioning, the Royal Rumble, mentioning what happened last year, him getting injured, him losing the Rumble. Then he ends up declaring for this year's Royal Rumble. Then you end up getting Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out. He ends up coming to the ring. CM Punk, of course, is upset that Seth Rollins comes out. Seth Rollins ends up saying that CM Punk shouldn't be surprised because he said that win or lose, he was going to come out to Raw and still show up. And then he ends up saying that he is a man of his word. If he didn't show up, then he would be more like CM Punk than himself because he doesn't run away. Then CM Punk ends up responding, ends up saying that at the end of the day, I'm still the winner, alluding to their match on Raw on Netflix, the debut of Raw on Netflix that happened last week. Then Seth Rollins ends up mentioning him being disappointed, him being frustrated that he lost, that he underestimated CM Punk, and that he's here to get redemption, and that the only way to get redemption on CM Punk is to ruin his WrestleMania dreams, which is ruining his WrestleMania main event, and that he declares for the Royal Rumble, and that he's going to make sure that he becomes the winner of the Royal Rumble. That way CM Punk doesn't get his main event. Then I think Drew McIntyre ends up coming out afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Drew McIntyre ends up coming out. He ends up saying that before CM Punk ends up saying some stuff about Drew McIntyre, but Drew McIntyre ends up mentioning that he's not there for Punk. He's not there for Punk. He's there for Seth. He ends up addressing Seth Rollins. He ends up saying that Seth Rollins being this leader is all an act. He's not the guy he says he is, because he mentioned on Raw debut on Netflix. He ends up mentioning the Tribal Combat match. Seth Rollins was nowhere to be found, which is kind of true. The amount of he ends up, because the way that Seth Rollins talk about Roman Reigns about not him getting power, you would assume that he would do something to be involved in that match. But to be fair, he did have a match against CM Punk, and towards the build-up, he wasn't really involved. So it makes sense. But from a logical perspective, from Drew's point, it kind of does make sense. He ends up mentioning how he didn't do anything to stop Roman from getting, the Ulafala, while Drew McIntyre ends up mentioning how he ended up at least, getting rid of Jey Uso, neutralizing Jey. And then he ends up saying that, look, we have bigger problems. Then the bigger problem is Roman Reigns. Drew McIntyre is set on Roman Reigns, while CM Punk and Seth are focused on each other. And then he ends up ending his promo with that he's going to be entering the Royal Rumble. This was a good opening segment. I enjoyed this. This was really great. They're basically teasing all three wrestlers potentially winning the Rumble. Very interested to see how this plays out, because this year's Royal Rumble is very unpredictable. It's extremely unpredictable. I don't feel confident in none of my guesses. I don't. I generally don't. I don't feel confident in my men's guess or the win. Because last year, you had an idea, even though I do think it was a bit unpredictable. Because last year, it was between three people. Last year it was between Gunther, Punk, and Cody. Those are the three people. And then the women's, I forgot who was the women's last year. I cannot remember who won. Who was the women's last year? Was it Rhea Ripley? No, that was not Rhea Ripley. I am so true. I cannot remember who won last year's Royal Rumble. Am I forgetting who won last year's? Oh, Bayley. Oh my God, it was Bayley. Yeah. Now Bayley was more of the obvious pick, but even some people was thinking Liv Morgan could have won. Like, it was. You had an idea of people. This year, there's no clue who's winning. Yeah, this year is no clue who's winning. But this is very interesting. I'm excited. I can't wait to see how all these stories come together. Then afterwards, we end up getting Chad Gable versus a mystery opponent, which was going to be a luchador. And he finally makes his debut, which is Penta. I love how Michael Cole in commentary ended up saying this was the worst kept secret, which it was. WWE ended up releasing merch before his actual match, which is actually genius, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Gotta make that money, which was actually very smart. He ended up getting a really good reaction, which surprised me. I knew he had hype going into this match, but I didn't expect him to get the pop that he did. Now, his theme song, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't feeling his theme song. I ain't gonna lie, that theme song I ain't feeling. But his presentation was dope. This was a good match. I really enjoyed it. Penta ends up picking the victory, of course. He ends up cutting a very deep, passionate promo afterwards. I'm very interested in the direction they go. Me and other fans hope that they do not do what we all fear he's going to do, which is put him in the LWO with Rey Mysterio. No, just have him be a single star until Rey Fenix can get there, and then they can be a tag team. But do not put him with the LW. Do not do that. Please don't. Now, I don't know the direction you go, especially with the whole transfer portal and all that, but I'm excited for Penta because I loved him in AEW. I'm excited to see what he does in WWE, and I think he could put on some mega matches and have some really good feuds, especially if they're going to have him speak on the microphone, because he actually shocked me on the microphone, to be honest. So I'm excited to see what's next for Penta. Now we end up getting Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. I am not going to speak about this match. To be on a good match, but this match went exactly how I expected it and how all their matches goes. Sheamus picked up the victory, which I expected. But Sheamus and Braun Breaker end up having a little interaction after the match, and Braun Breaker ends up pushing Sheamus with the security, ends up breaking them apart. This match is confirmed for Saturday night main event, which is coming up in about 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's like a week before the Rumble. I'm assuming Braun Breaker will retain. Very interested to see what's next for Sheamus after that match. I'm assuming maybe that could be the Mania match, because it doesn't have to be a one and done. Sheamus can easily get a rematch later on. So I'm very interested to see how that match plays out. Hopefully the build towards Saturday Night Main Event actually is good. Hopefully they continue to build that up. Yeah, I'm excited for the match. I think the match will be a banger. Braun Breaker's easily winning. I'm just curious to see what they do afterwards with Sheamus after Saturday Night Main Event. Then we end up getting Gunther. Gunther cuts a promo. He ends up, mentioning the World Heavyweight Championship, mentioning that championship is the prize that everyone should be fighting for. Then Jey Uso comes out. He calls his shot. He wants a title shot. Gunther responds back, basically saying that Jay's not on his level. Gunther low-key kind of cooked Jey in his promo, to be honest. He ends up basically saying that Jay's not on his level. Jay is a forever tag team guy, that he would never be able to basically get out of the shadow of just being just a tag team wrestler. Gunther ends up leaving the ring, but Jey Uso ends up coming back, ends up mentioning that all the things Gunther said was true, but he's going to prove that he's going to basically get the respect of Gunther and prove him wrong when he beats him at Saturday night's main event. So it is confirmed that will be a Saturday night main event as well. I'm interested in the match. Now, the only bad thing is that Jey Uso is not winning, and I would love for Jey Uso to win, but Gunther is easily winning. Now, I am interested in the direction that they're going with Gunther, because for me, and most fans, I'm assuming, when Gunther won the World Heavyweight Championship, I assumed that they was gonna book him very strong and push him to the moon. Not like Cody Rhodes, but I feel like they would have. I don't know. It's very weird. It feels like that they just put the title on Gunther and they had no direction for him. And I understand that other stars was always going to be booked like to a higher degree. Like I always knew Punk and Rollins was always going to be more of a priority, but the way they booked Gunther, it just kind of felt like they had little to no direction for. Like he should feel more special. Like when he comes out, he feels important, but like in terms of importance in the main roster, he doesn't feel that important, which is very weird. Even though he's the world champ, it's very weird. Like this is gonna sound kind of bad, but the way they book him, to be honest, you could have just had Damian Priest continue to be champion if you was gonna book him like this. If I'm being honest, and I love Gunther, but the way they're booking him, you could have just had Damian Priest held it, and you could have waited the whole. Like you could have just held out on Gunther's title run if you was just gonna do this, but I'm hoping that it will get better, especially leading towards WrestleMania. So, very interesting. Now, it is unfortunate because Jey Uso fans, oh my God, his fan base is very dedicated. But, man, when he lose, I already know it's going to be a bunch of Jey Uso fanboys complaining and whining about him not winning that World Heavyweight Championship, even though it's very obvious that he's not winning. But I am interested in the match nonetheless. Then we get the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, Lyra Valkyria versus Dakota Kai. This was actually a great match. I really enjoyed this match. It is shorter than I expected, but this match was really great. It actually exceeded my expectations. I expected it to be a good match, but this match actually surprised me. Lyra Valkyria ended up picking up the victory. I felt like that was very obvious. I don't know why there were so many fans who thought Dakota Kai was winning. I don't understand why people thought Dakota Kai was winning. There's no way you have Lyra beat Io Sky. She beat Io Sky, the leader of Damage Control. You're telling me that people legit thought that Dakota Kai was going to beat the person that beat the leader of her own faction that's actually been getting pushed as a single star. Like, you can't be serious. Like, wrestling fans can be so smart but can be so stupid when it comes to their favorite wrestlers. It's like they turn off all of their booking knowledge and just turn it off. Like, I don't understand it. And then I love Dakota Kai. I do. But man, Dakota Kai's fan base is starting to make me not like her because, oh my God. Like, I got into it with a fan today telling me that Dakota Kai, like, because the person was saying that Lyra was the bad choice because she has no character development, even though Dakota Kai on the main roster doesn't have much to character development either. And then someone told me in the YouTube comment section telling me that her gimmick, Dakota Kai's gimmick, is literally that fans want her to win a championship. I got so frustrated because there's no way you're telling me that a gimmick is literally fans wanting you to achieve. Like, how is that a gimmick? Like, look, like I said, I love Dakota Kai, but her fan base is almost as bad as Liv Morgan fans. Like, it's getting ridiculous. Like, I understand wanting her to win, but bro, like, the reasonings for why Dakota Kai deserves it is ridiculous. Like, look, I get wanting her to win, but man, her fan base is starting to become is ridiculous. Lyra Valkyria ends up winning. I'm assuming the direction, or what I would do, is you do Becky Lynch versus Lyra for the IC title. Redo what you did at NXT. Have Becky Lynch probably put her over again, which I think is the logical choice. Do it at Mania. I think that is the obvious choice, but who knows? They may not go in that direction, but I'm assuming that's the direction that they end up going. Then we end up getting Sami Zayn versus The Miz. This match ended up getting set up with the Sami Zayn was going into Adam Pearce's office, but he ends up running into Karrion Kross, The Miz. They end up having a little interaction. They end up alluding to him never being world champion. The Miz ends up mentioning how he won the world championship twice. Sami Zayn gets a bit upset and ends up leading into a match. I do like how they mention him being world champion. So I'm assuming this is probably the start of him being world champion, but also they end up having a segment with him and Seth Rollins mentioning how Sami needs to start looking out for himself instead of looking out for others. So I'm hoping this is the story that they're telling of Sami Zayn becoming a world champion, because I've been saying that Sami Zayn should be in the world champion scene, and it's long overdue, in my opinion. It's long overdue. He needs to be a world champion in 2025. I think it's long overdue. The fact that he has been able to maintain his momentum is very shocking and is actually great. Especially that this is at one point in time people actually wanting him to dethrone Roman Reigns. I think people forget about that. This is the guy that before Cody, people actually wanted him to dethrone Roman Reigns. So I hope that they actually push him in 2025. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I hope that is the direction that they're going in. And also, the the Y6 is getting moved over to SmackDown, which is very shocking and surprising, because does that mean that's the end of the Final Testament and Y6 feud, which will be kind of lackluster? But to be fair, I'm not completely mad at it, even though I was interested in the story, but I'm not completely mad at the idea though. We end up getting Rhea Ripley. She cuts a very short promo because she ends up getting interrupted by Nia Jax. Nia Jax talks her typical trash. She ends up mentioning the Rumble, how she's going to win and become champion again. Then Bayley was in the crowd. She ends up talking trash about Bayley. Bayley comes in, of course, to defend herself. Nia Jax ends up attacking Rhea Ripley and Bayley, but eventually ends up getting double teamed. And then that's the end with the babyfaces stand tall. Not going to really speak too much. I was going to say, now the segment overall, I didn't hate it. It was an okay segment. I do question why it was on TV, but to be fair, I can't really complain about it, because typically when I complain about something, I typically try to come up with a solution of why said things shouldn't have happened and then how you could redo it. But to be fair, I have nothing else to really, I don't have a real good rebuttal of what you could have replaced this with, to be honest, because I feel like you should have Rhea Ripley on the show after beating Liv Morgan. I just don't know what you could have done afterwards, to be honest, to build. Now, some people say you could have had Io Sky come out to declare the Rumble, but my only thing is, what would that accomplish? Because I feel like the whole point was to eventually lead to a brawl, and there will be no reason for Rhea Ripley and Io Sky to brawl. Like, what, they're going to just have a stare down? I mean, I guess you could do that, but if that's not going to be the Mania match, then there's no point of doing it. You only do that unless that's going to be the Mania match, which I don't think it is, so you just don't do that, in my opinion. Then we get the main event, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a street fight. This match was really good. I enjoyed this match. This was a really good match. We had some cool spots. We had Damian Priest hitting a Falcon Arrow off the rail into a table. We had one spot where Finn Balor ends up hitting the coup de grace through a table onto Damian Priest. We end up having another spot where Damian Priest ends up doing a razor's edge on the table as well. But then we get towards the end of the match. Finn Balor is getting pulled out through a stretcher after the Falcon Arrow. This wasn't really towards the end of the match, but after he get hit with the Falcon Arrow on the table, he ends up getting put on a stretcher. They're stretching him out, and the match is not over. They end up stretching him out. You got Carlito and JD McDonough out there. Damian Priest ends up running out, attacking Damian Priest. He attacks, JD, Carlito, gets rid of them. And he ends up attacking Finn Balor on the stretcher and ends up pushing the stretcher back towards the ring and putting Finn. I actually like that spot. I do like that spot. He ends up attacking Finn Balor. Finn Balor has like a neck brace on him and everything. But then you end up getting Carlito and JD McDonough. They end up attacking Damian Priest, allowing Finn Balor to get the upper hand. Finn Balor ends up hitting the coup de grace, but Damian Priest ends up kicking out, and then that ends up transitioning to the table spots I mentioned earlier. But then towards the end of the match, the War Raiders ends up coming out very late. I don't understand why they came out as late as they did, because they came out after Finn Balor ended up hitting the coup de grace and all. I don't understand. The Judgment Day was attacking him for like 3 to 4 minutes, and then the War Raiders finally came out. They ended up coming out, taking out the JD and Carlito, which led to the typical one-on-one match, with Damian Priest eventually picking up the victory, hopefully ending the feud, which I'm assuming, because this was a street fight, so I don't know where you go from here. So yeah, Damian Priest picks up the victory, as he should. A lot of Finn Balor fanboys are upset, which I don't understand why. He's been losing for the past few years. I don't understand why this is a surprise at this point. And he wasn't going to win the feud anyway. He wasn't winning the feud when they first started. I don't know why people are shocked that he lost this feud. The feud was always to build up Damian Priest. I don't understand why people are shocked by this. Like, I feel like this was obvious. Like, this is what I be saying. When wrestling fans are fans of a particular wrestler, it's like all of their knowledge just goes out the window, and they're just blinded by their I can't explain. They're just blinded by them liking a wrestler so much that they don't think logically. They just think with their feelings. It's like, it's ridiculous. I don't understand. Like, I have my favorites, but I also understand why certain wrestlers aren't pushed to the moon. I understand why they do certain things. Like, I get it. But it's ridiculous how some fans can just be blinded by them liking wrestlers so much that they don't understand certain things. Overall, this was a great show. This is what I was hoping Raw on Netflix was. This was a great show. I thought this was a great show, man. I can't wait to see how they progress these stories. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.